The first time Avery Lane laid eyes on Riley Quinn, she was standing in line at Brewtide, the small coffee shop that smelled like burnt espresso and sea salt. Avery hated the place. It was too rustic, too cozy, and far too communal. And yet, there she was. Again. "I see you've finally accepted my superior coffee recommendations," said a smooth voice behind her. Avery didn't need to turn. She knew that voice. It haunted boardrooms and charity galas alike. "I'm here because my office espresso machine died a tragic, frothy death." "Don't flatter yourself, Quinn." Riley stepped into view, clad in a cream blazer and sunglasses that cost more than Avery's monthly server costs. "Is this the part where you accuse me of corporate sabotage again? You did schedule a hotel opening across from my new headquarters. You scheduled your headquarters across from my beachfront property. It's not my fault you picked the only piece of real estate that doesn't crumble when it rains." Ms. Dooley, the 80-something coffee shop owner with a scowl deeper than the Mariana Trench, slammed 2 mugs onto the counter. "You two again. Either kiss or kill each other, but stop taking up my air." Avery rolled her eyes. "I'd rather drown." Riley smirked. "You say that, but you keep coming back." The banter had become routine. They weren't friends, not even close. But there was something about Riley's calm demeanor that made Avery want to ruffle it, preferably with a sea breeze and a handful of sand. They took their coffee and sat at separate tables, exactly 3 feet apart, as always. Caleb burst through the door moments later, laptop in hand and a wild look in his eyes. "Avery. You're gonna want to see this." "I'm busy pretending I don't know her," Avery said, nodding toward Riley. "Trust me, this is better." Avery leaned over Caleb's screen. "Is that Riley's new project?" Riley glanced up, lips curling. "Peeking at my blueprints now. Is this foreplay or espionage?" Caleb blinked. "Should I leave you two alone?" "No," they both said in unison. Later that day, at Riley's Echo Resort headquarters, complete with recycled bamboo desks and plants that had names, the same conversation was happening in reverse. Juno adjusted her glasses. "Why don't you just date her and end this cold brew war?" "Because she's insufferable," Riley replied, sipping her organic herbal tea. "She acts like sarcasm is a personality trait." "She brings out your dimples," Juno said flatly. "I do not have dimples." "You do when she makes you smirk." "Which is often." Riley hated that Juno had a point. Avery was irritating, yes, but also sharp, and unexpectedly passionate about ocean conservation, and the way she ranted about malfunctioning tech with wild hand gestures was kind of nope. She wasn't going there. Meanwhile, back at Avery's office, Caleb was still pitching the idea of a ceasefire collaboration. "Think of the headlines," he said. "2 rival powerhouses join forces to save the reef." "I'd rather choke on kelp," Avery replied. "But you like the reef." "I like it better than her smug face." Caleb leaned in. "She makes you smile when you think no one's looking." "I smile when I'm planning her downfall." That night, both women separately, of course, ended up back at Brewtide. Ms. Dooley sighed when she saw them. "Okay. That's it. I'm putting you two on the same loyalty punch card." "You wouldn't dare," Avery gasped. "Try me," Ms. Dooley said. "Also, you're sitting together tonight. New policy. Save space, save whales." Riley raised an eyebrow. "That last part doesn't make sense." "It does if you squint." Defeated, Avery and Riley sat across from each other, cups steaming. Silence. Then Avery said, "Why do you even care about ecotourism?" Riley looked at her, genuinely. "Because I grew up on a polluted beach. I promised myself I'd build something better." Avery blinked. That's surprisingly earnest. You thought I was all yacht parties and avocado toast. Don't forget evil plots. Riley smiled. You're lucky I like a challenge. I'm not flirting. Neither am I. They were both lying. Riley was the last person Avery expected to find in her office on a Wednesday morning. Wearing navy slacks, heels that clicked like tiny gavel strikes, and that ever-annoying smirk, Riley Quinn stood by the aquarium in Avery's lobby, tapping on the glass like she owned the place. Technically, she didn't. Emotionally, Avery was starting to worry she might. "Should I call security or do you want to explain yourself?" Avery said, folding her arms. Riley turned. "Relax, Lane. Your CTO invited me." Caleb waved sheepishly from the side. "In my defense, I didn't think she'd actually come." "I heard free croissants," Riley said, holding up a half-eaten pastry. "What can I say? I'm motivated by carbs and curiosity." Avery gave Caleb a look. "You offered her pastries and access to my headquarters." He shrugged. "You always say you want to disrupt the system. I figured inviting your rival over would be disruptive." "Disruptive is not the same as catastrophic. You're just scared she'll impress you," Caleb whispered. "I heard that," Riley said. Avery turned back to her nemesis. "What do you want, Quinn?" Riley held up a glossy folder. "A proposal." "Not that kind, don't panic." "I wasn't panicking." "You flinched." "I'm allergic to nonsense." Riley walked past her and laid the folder open on the sleek conference table. "Hear me out. You and I team up on the artificial reef project. You build the tech. I build the outreach. We present it at the Ocean Impact Summit in 6 weeks. Avery blinked. "You want to collaborate with me?" Riley nodded. "Stranger things have happened." "Name one." "I once saw a dolphin do synchronized flips with a dog." "Fair." Avery stared at the blueprint Riley had sketched, part marine sanctuary, part underwater research lab, part ecotourist attraction. It was ambitious. Expensive. Beautiful. Ugh. Caleb leaned in. "It's actually brilliant." "I hate that it is," Avery muttered. Riley pulled out a pen. "You'd get full creative control on tech. I handle logistics, marketing, and funding. We work together, and we might actually make a difference." Avery narrowed her eyes. "What's in it for you?" "Besides saving the ocean," Riley tilted her head. "The satisfaction of watching you squirm while working with me. At least you're honest." "I'm always honest. I just wear it better." 2 hours later, the deal was sealed with a handshake that lasted too long and a glint in both their eyes that neither wanted to acknowledge. "You'll need to come by my site tomorrow," Riley said, slinging her designer bag over her shoulder. "We're testing coral-friendly infrastructure in tank prototypes." "I'll bring my skepticism," Avery replied. "I'll bring sunscreen. You look like you burn easily." "Rude. Just observant." As Riley walked away, Caleb nudged Avery. "This is gonna be so entertaining." "She's infuriating." "You're smiling." "It's because I'm imagining throwing her into the prototype tank." The next day, Avery showed up to Riley's test site in ripped jeans, steel-toed boots, and a heavy layer of suspicion. Riley was already waist-deep in a tank, holding a bioreactive reef panel like it was a sacred artifact. Her assistant Juno stood beside the tank, filming her on a phone. "This is for our investor update," Juno explained flatly. "And for the blooper reel when she falls in." Riley didn't fall. Unfortunately. Instead, she looked up and said, "You're late." "I was emotionally preparing." "For what?" "Dealing with you in your natural habitat." "If you're implying I'm like a sea creature." "I was going to say siren, but if you want to be a jellyfish." "You think I'm alluring?" "I think you're alarming." Juno looked between them and muttered, "Just make out already." Avery pointed. "She can't be trusted with technology." Riley smirked. "And you can't be trusted with feelings." That's Avery paused. Weirdly accurate. They spent the day reviewing tank tests, debating coral temperature thresholds, and bickering over waterproof sensors. Somehow, the chaos worked. In between all the back and forth, Avery noticed something unusual. Riley was a better scientist than she let on. And Riley noticed something too. Avery laughed more when she wasn't in charge. By sunset, the prototype coral bloom lit up in soft pink and blue under the test lights. Riley leaned against the tank, hair damp from a splash war she'd lost to Juno. "It's working," she said quietly. "We could actually pull this off." Avery sat beside her. "And no one's died yet. That's a good sign." Riley grinned. "You're not so bad when you're not trying to win." "I am always trying to win." "And yet," Riley said, brushing a bit of salt water from Avery's cheek, "you're here." Avery froze. Then cleared her throat. "Caleb needs to recalibrate the salinity levels. We should wrap up." "MMHM," Riley said, not moving an inch. That night, Riley scrolled through her phone, stopping at a photo Juno had secretly snapped. Her and Avery, both crouched over the reef panel, laughing at something, faces close. She should delete it. She didn't. At the same moment, Avery sat at her desk, typing up sensor specs, sipping cold coffee, and definitely not thinking about the way Riley's voice had dropped when she talked about saving the reef. She wasn't thinking about Riley's freckles or her ridiculously competent hands or how. Caleb knocked. "Hey. Just checking, are you okay?" "Why wouldn't I be?" "You're smiling again. Stop documenting that." He grinned. "You know, there's a term for this." "Don't say it." "Enemies to lovers." "I will fire you." If there was one thing Avery Lane hated more than slow Wi-Fi, it was being unprepared. So naturally, the universe rewarded her with this, a last-minute storm warning, a power outage, and a surprise overnight stay at Riley Quinn's Echo Resort with one bed left. "This isn't funny," Avery muttered, standing in the rain with her backpack and a very wet hoodie. "It's a little funny," Riley said, holding an umbrella that suspiciously never angled toward Avery. "But don't worry. We're fully solar. The backup battery will kick in any minute now." "Great. I'll just dry off using the sheer force of your optimism." Juno appeared beside them, wrapped in a towel and munching popcorn. "Bad news. The storm knocked out our north building. All booked. Except room 14. Avery raised an eyebrow. "And what's in room 14? "One bed," Juno said with a smirk. "Queen-sized. Cozy. Romantic. Probably cursed." Riley sighed. "You're not helping." "Oh, I'm thriving." Avery stood in the doorway of room 14, dripping water onto the polished wood floor. The room was warm, with woven lamps, soft lighting, and yes, one bed. Center stage. Mocking her. You planned this, she said. Riley dropped her suitcase by the armchair. You really think I can control the weather? Yes. That's almost flattering. I didn't say it was a good thing. Avery walked to the far side of the bed. I get the left. Fine, Riley said, kicking off her boots. I sleep on the right anyway. We're compatible. Avery stared. Don't ever say that again. They sat on opposite ends, scrolling their phones in the dim glow of backup lights. Outside, thunder rolled like someone dragging furniture across the sky. Inside, tension buzzed like a badly grounded wire. So, Riley said eventually, what's your biggest fear? Avery looked up. What? Small talk. I figured if we're stuck here, might as well learn things. I don't do fear. Everyone does fear. Avery hesitated. Fine. Spiders. And failure. That tracks. What about you? Losing control, Riley said easily. And crabs. Avery blinked. Like the seafood. No. Like the sideways walking demon bugs from hell. Avery snorted. You're scared of crabs. They plot things. You can tell. You're ridiculous. You're grumpy. And you're insufferable. And yet, Riley said, leaning back on her elbow, we keep ending up in the same room. Because of a storm. Not fate. Sure. Later, after a shared cup of instant tea, Riley insisted it was ethically sourced. They both lay in bed, facing away from each other, with at least a 5-pillow barrier between them. You're breathing too loud, Avery whispered. You're thinking too loud, Riley whispered back. They were quiet for a beat. Then Riley asked, softer now, why do you hate me so much? Avery opened one eye. I don't hate you. You act like you do. I act like I'm threatened by you. Riley turned slightly. That's surprisingly honest. Don't get used to it. Is it the success that press my better shoes? It's the way you walk into a room and take all the air, Avery said. Like everything bends toward you. That's poetic, Riley whispered. And a little dramatic. Avery turned over to face her, just barely. You're good at this. The hotels. The Coral Project. People like you. It's annoying. You think I have it easy. You make it look easy. Riley gave a small smile. I work hard, Lane. I just do it in heels and with better lighting. They lay there, watching each other in the dark. Avery finally said, you're not what I thought. And what did you think? I thought you were all polish. All surface. And now? Now I think you might be the most dangerous person I've ever liked. Riley blinked. Liked. Regretted liking. MMHM. They were quiet again. Then Avery whispered, still breathing too loud. You could come closer. That way you wouldn't hear me as much. Avery rolled to the edge of the bed. Try that and I'll push you off. Is that a threat or a fantasy? Avery threw a pillow at her. Good night, Quinn. Good night, Lane. Morning came too early. Riley woke first and immediately noticed two things. One, the storm had passed, and two, Avery was curled up next to her, one arm flopped across Riley's waist like it belonged there. She didn't move. She didn't dare. She just stared at the ceiling and whispered, Juno owes me $20. Downstairs, Juno was waiting with pancakes and a raised eyebrow. How did the snuggle war go? We didn't snuggle, Avery snapped, grabbing a plate. Riley smiled. She was the big spoon. You were cold. You were warm. You're delusional. You're blushing. Caleb walked in at that exact moment, saw Avery's flustered face, and grinned. Oh, this is going in the group chat. Later that afternoon, after the team debriefed and the sun returned, Riley caught Avery on the balcony, staring at the horizon. You okay? She asked. Avery nodded. I think so. You didn't run this time. Don't push it. Riley stepped closer. So, about what you said last night. I was sleep deprived. You said you liked me. I said you were dangerous. For you, that's basically romantic. Avery turned, and for once, there was no smirk, just the tiniest smile. Maybe, she said. But I'm not ready to fall for a rival. Then maybe, Riley said, we stop being rivals. Avery blinked. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying, we try working together without the sabotage. Maybe even be friends. Friends who flirt constantly. Exactly. Avery considered. I could handle that. Starting now. Maybe starting after lunch. Deal. Avery Lane liked to think of herself as composed. Cool. A fortress of sarcasm and schedule blocks. So naturally, she was now seated in the middle of a corporate strategy meeting, next to Riley Quinn, whose perfume smelled like citrus and storm warnings. This is a mistake, Avery whispered, glancing around the sleek conference room Riley had decorated with nautical art and moss walls. You say that every time we're in the same room, Riley replied. Yet here you are. Because Caleb insists we need to present a united front. And he's right, Riley said sweetly, reaching over and straightening Avery's name placard. Look at us. United. Fronting. I'm going to scream. Caleb beamed from across the table. Welcome everyone. Today we're finalizing the joint launch timeline for our Reef initiative. Juno, seated next to Riley with a coffee and zero patience, added, and placing bets on when these two finally kiss. I'm sorry, Avery blinked. I said launch targets, Lane. Maybe check your hearing, Juno said, sipping loudly. Avery glared at her. Riley covered a grin with her hand. They spent the next hour arguing about branding fonts. Riley wanted coastal elegance, Avery wanted clean tech lines. Event catering. Riley suggested sustainable tapas, Avery wanted protein bars, and keynote speaker order. Avery said logic should come before fluff, Riley countered that passion sells. Fine, Avery snapped, you open with your pretty ocean metaphors. I'll follow with the real data. You just called me pretty, Riley said. I called your metaphors pretty. Caleb whispered to Juno, I give it 2 more meetings before they hold hands. Juno whispered back, they already did. Room 14. Storm night. Snugglegate. Caleb choked on his tea. After the meeting, Riley followed Avery into the elevator. I have a proposal. No. You haven't even heard it yet. If it involves feelings, games, or group yoga, I'm out. Riley leaned against the wall. Team bonding retreat. Avery groaned. You're relentless. It LOL boost morale. Coastal hike, shared meals, zero Wi-Fi. You, me, the team nature's chaos. I am chaos. You are spreadsheets. That's organized chaos. Exactly, Riley smiled. We balance each other out. Stop flirting during logistics discussions. Stop making logistics so attractive. The elevator dinged. Neither of them moved. Come on, Riley said gently. Let us test what happens when we're not bickering every 5 minutes. I'd rather test shark repellents. I'll bring both. Avery sighed. Fine. One weekend. No singing cumbia. I'll allow acoustic guitar only after sunset. You're the worst. You like me anyway. 2 days later, the team arrived at a clifftop eco lodge with wooden cabins, fire pits, and suspiciously cheerful birds. Caleb carried 6 bags and immediately dropped one onto his foot. Remind me why I agreed to this. Because I promised Maurice, Riley replied. Juno appeared behind him with a duffel that looked like it weighed more than she did. If there's no cell signal, I will eat bark. Spirit of the wild, Avery said dryly. Embrace it. You've never camped a day in your life, Juno muttered. No, but I've watched 3 documentaries. I'm basically Bear Grylls. That night, under a sky full of stars and fireflies that refused to respect personal space, the group gathered around the fire. Caleb pulled out a deck of cards. Icebreaker game time. Winner picks tomorrow's hike trail. Loser does breakfast dishes. Avery raised an eyebrow. Is this what Start UPS have become? Riley leaned close. Scared to lose. I don't lose. Except to charm. Is that what you call your manipulation now? Better than calling it charisma. Half an hour later, Avery was down 3 rounds and somehow had a marshmallow stuck to her sleeve. Riley, victorious, held up the card like a trophy. I demand a rematch, Avery said. You demand a lot of things. Like basic rules. You agreed to Chaos Uno. That wasn't a thing until you made it a thing. You're so cute when you're competitive. Avery froze. Say that again and I will fling this marshmallow at your face. Please do. Why are you like this? Because, Riley said, nudging her knee under the table, you let me be. Later, when everyone had turned in, Avery and Riley stood on the balcony of their shared cabin, both watching the ocean shimmer far below. I forgot what silence sounded like, Avery said. Riley glanced at her. Too many meetings. Too many expectations. Too many people assuming I have it together all the time. You do have it together. No, Avery said softly. I just look like I do. A long pause. Then Riley reached over and gently, almost hesitantly, took her hand. Avery didn't pull away. Riley whispered, You're allowed to fall apart sometimes. Avery looked down at their fingers. That's hard. You don't have to do it alone. You volunteering. I'm annoyingly persistent that way. They stood like that for a while, hands entwined, eyes on the sea, pretending not to be terrified of what was happening. Back inside the cabin, as Avery changed into sweatpants and Riley flopped dramatically onto her bed, Avery said, You know this thing, whatever it is, it's complicated, right? I love complicated. It might not work. I like a challenge. We're basically enemies. Riley looked up at her. Were. Avery smirked. Getting cocky. Riley grinned. Getting hopeful. Avery stood there, heart thudding, mind reeling. She should back away. Build a wall. Make a spreadsheet about boundaries. Instead, she crossed the room and sat on the edge of Riley's bed. Just so you know, she murmured, this doesn't mean I like you. Riley raised an eyebrow. You're holding my hand again. Avery looked down. Damn it, Avery Lane was not panicking. She was strategizing aggressively while internally screaming. Why is my face on 3 news sites next to Riley S. with the headline Tech CEO and Echo Queen, Ocean S. new power couple? Caleb spun his chair with an excited grin. Technically, it was only 2 major sites. The third one is a gossip blog with bad fonts. Do I look like I care about fonts right now? You usually do. Not when the internet is accusing me of having a girlfriend. You were holding hands. We were off the clock. That's not how hands work, boss. Avery dropped her forehead onto her desk. This is a disaster. Caleb shrugged. I think it's great. You're trending. People are calling you both the Reef Queens. Avery groaned louder. Why does everything sound like a drag act? Meanwhile, across the city, Riley was lounging in a velvet armchair in her office, reading the same headlines with a bemused smile. Juno stood nearby, filing receipts. Should I prepare a denial statement? Riley took a sip of coffee. Nope. Should I prepare matching outfits? Riley smirked. Tempting. Should I warn her you're enjoying this way too much? Riley leaned back. Oh, she knows. She's probably rage drinking cold brew right now. Rage drinking was, in fact, exactly what Avery was doing when her phone buzzed. Hey, want to cause more headlines and grab dinner tonight? Is this a trap? Absolutely not. It's not a date. Not a date. Totally platonic. Just 2 professional rivals sharing overpriced risotto. If there's candlelight, I'm flipping the table. No promises. They met at Solstice, a quiet rooftop restaurant known for its sustainable menu and suspiciously romantic lighting. Riley arrived first, dressed in something soft and elegant that made Avery irrationally mad. You look, Avery began, then stopped. Smug. You were going to say good. I was going to say smug in linen. I take it as a compliment. Avery sat across from her, still in her work blazer, still wearing emotional armor. This is not a date, she said, the moment the waiter left. I know. We're not dating. Of course not. There's no us. Obviously. They stared at each other in silence for a moment. Then Riley smiled. You look beautiful when you're denying everything. I will throw this bread at you. The conversation drifted from choral restoration to terrible first jobs, to embarrassing childhood stories. Avery laughed more than she meant to. Riley smiled softer than usual. I once tried to start a business selling shell necklaces when I was 10, Riley confessed. I glued everything with Elmer S and they all fell apart mid-tourist season. Avery grinned. My first invention was a solar-powered toaster. It caught fire. They should have called you Flame Tech. I would VE sold that brand, too. Riley reached across the table, hand brushing Avery's. You're more fun than people think. I'm more terrified than people think. Of what? Avery hesitated. Letting someone in. And then losing them. The mood shifted. Riley didn't pull her hand back. You don't have to lose me, she said, barely above a whisper. Don't say that unless you mean it. I don't say anything I don't mean. Outside, the city glowed. Inside, 2 people who were definitely not dating leaned closer over a shared plate of tiramisu. I have a confession, Riley said. I picked this restaurant because they have a booth shaped like a clamshell. Avery looked horrified. No. Riley nodded solemnly. They call it the love oyster. We are not sitting in that. I tried. It was booked. Thank God. I bribed the host to move us there for dessert. Avery dropped her spoon. You are unstoppable. You like it. Unfortunately. 10 minutes later, they were seated in the infamous Love Oyster booth shaped exactly like it sounded. Avery tried to glare but failed. I feel like I'm inside a very judgmental mollusk. Riley giggled. You look cute when you're uncomfortable. Avery turned serious. This is getting out of hand. Define this. You. Me. The public attention. The headlines. The feelings. Riley didn't flinch. You want to stop? Avery looked at her. Looked at the soft lamp glow on Riley's cheekbone. The way her eyes held equal parts steel and sea foam. She shook her head. No, I just want to figure out what it means. Riley's voice dropped. It means we're somewhere between chaos and chemistry, and I'm not scared of either. Avery exhaled, heart loud in her ears. So what happens next? Riley leaned in, lips a breath away. You tell me. The kiss soft, certain, and slow tasted like lemon and risk. They pulled away with matching flushed cheeks. Avery whispered, still not a date. Riley grinned. Still technically not. Back at Avery's place later, Caleb was waiting on the couch, watching cat videos and holding a box of popcorn. When she walked in, hair tousled, eyes wide, he sat up. So. Not a word, Avery said, walking past him. Did she kiss you? Silence. I knew it. I win the pool. You were betting on my romantic collapse. Not collapse. Blossoming. I will fire you. You won tea. Because you're glowing. Avery paused. Touched her lips. Maybe she was 6 weeks. That's how long it had taken to build the prototype reef system, orchestrate a full-scale launch event, survive public speculation, and, somehow, fall in love. Though neither Avery nor Riley had dared to say the L word out loud. Not yet. Do we have enough power for the live stream? Avery asked, pacing behind the stage like a caffeinated tiger. Caleb, dressed in a suit for the first time in 2 years, gave a thumbs up. Solar battery at 96%. Plus backup generator. Unless someone shorts the mic, we're golden. I swear if I trip over a cable, I'm blaming it on Juno. Juno, standing nearby in sunglasses and holding a clipboard like it was a weapon, didn't even look up. Try me, spreadsheet princess. Riley appeared beside Avery, wearing a sleek ocean blue suit and a calm smile that did nothing to calm Avery's pulse. You ready? Riley asked. No, Avery replied. I haven't had a full-blown panic attack yet, so I'm overdue. Riley reached out and smoothed the edge of Avery's lapel. You'll be fine. You always are. I'm not fine. You're impressive. I'm sweating. You're glowing. Avery narrowed her eyes. You only say nice things when I'm about to go on stage. Or when you're trying to get me to kiss you. Riley leaned closer. What if I'm always trying? Avery was saved by a voice in her earpiece. You're live in 2 minutes. Showtime, Riley said, offering her hand. Avery hesitated. Then took it. The stage overlooked a massive tank filled with coral, sensors, and schools of fish swimming lazily under artificial reef structures. Beyond that, the ocean sparkled under a crisp blue sky. Reporters, scientists, investors, and ocean activists packed the crowd. Cameras were already rolling. Avery stepped up first, cleared her throat, and began, "Hi. I'm Avery Lane, founder of Lane Tech Marine Solutions. You may know me as the woman who once threatened to drop her laptop into the sea if our servers crashed again." The crowd laughed. "But today, I'm not here to rant. I'm here to celebrate what happens when rivals stop competing and start collaborating." She looked over at Riley, who stepped forward beside her with practiced grace. "I'm Riley Quinn," she said, "and for once, Avery didn't call me insufferable backstage, so I think we're making progress." Another laugh. "But seriously," Riley continued, "this project proves what's possible when innovation meets empathy. When ego steps aside to make room for teamwork. And yes, when tech nerds and resort brats find common ground." Avery smiled. Their eyes met. And in front of everyone, Riley reached for Avery's hand again, this time without hesitation. The crowd didn't miss it. There were murmurs. Smiles. A few gasps. Avery gripped Riley's hand tighter. "Surprise," she muttered. "We're the headline again." Riley squeezed back. "Let them watch." The event was a hit. The live stream got over 3 million views in 24 hours. TechCrunch wrote, "From enemies to eco heroes, Lane and Quinn redefine the power couple trope." Avery hated the word couple. Mostly because it made her feel something she didn't know how to say. Later that night, after the guests left, the stage was empty, and the stars began blinking across the sky. Avery sat alone by the tank. Riley found her there, legs dangling over the edge, watching bioluminescent fish glow like underwater fireflies. "Figured I'd find you here," Riley said, sitting beside her. "I needed air," Avery replied. "And a break from people congratulating me like I discovered gravity." "You kind of did. But wetter." They sat in silence for a minute, listening to waves, the hum of the reef lights, and the occasional slap of fish against glass. Then Avery said, "You told me once you're scared of losing control." "Still true," Riley said quietly. "I told you I was scared of failure." "Also still true." Avery looked at her. "So how did we get here? How did this happen?" Riley shrugged. "You looked at me like I wasn't just some polished heiress. And I saw the way you really cared about saving things that mattered. Including yourself." Avery let that sit between them for a moment. Then, with a breath that felt like a beginning, she said, "I think I'm in love with you." Riley's head snapped toward her. Avery continued, voice steady, "I've been in love with you since the second time you insulted my presentation slides and smiled like you knew I'd argue back." Riley laughed, relieved, surprised, and a little teary. "You waited until after the global press conference to say that." "I had to protect my image." Riley leaned in. "And now? Now I don't care." So they kissed. There, beside the reef they'd built together, with salt in the air and the sea watching like an old friend. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't headline worthy. It was real. 6 months later, the reef project expanded. Investors poured in. Schools studied it. Tourists visited it. Fish returned. And Avery Lane and Riley Quinn, once rivals, then collaborators, finally moved in together. Caleb and Juno lasted exactly 1 week as roommates before Juno moved into the treehouse out back. The internet still shipped them. They still refused to label it. But if you asked either of them what they were, they'd smile and say, "We're saving the ocean. Together." And then probably argue about which playlist to use during reef monitoring. Because some things never change.